What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about my best 23 for the 2025 season. Round 1 is not too far away. We are less than 4 weeks to go, and we've obviously got practice matches and the community series coming up against the Saints, and the Crows are obviously this weekend as well in Mount Barker. So, and an internal trial to come as well just the week before round 1 too. So plenty to be happening right across the rest of this preseason. But as I said, there's not too long to go, and I thought before we see absolutely everything, before anything pans out, I figured that this would be the perfect time to be mentioning my best 23 and what I feel will be the best side to put out on the park round 1 against Collingwood. So leave the comments in until you hear it all. Give me your best opinions as well for your best 23. This is obviously based purely judged on the injuries that have been had so far and the availability obviously for round 1 too. So we'll get straight into it. And let's talk about Port Adelaide's best 23 for round 1. All right, I'm just going to dance straight into this and mention my back half of the field. So this is the back line for 2025 round 1, starting with the back pocket. It will be Logan Evans. It'll be Alia and Miles Bergman. They're the three across the full back line. I feel like that's a pretty similar mix to last year. Logan Evans really developed into the last few games of last year as well, and I feel like he's going to be another integral part of the back line, and hopefully he can continue his fantastic form. Across the half back line as well will be Josh Sinn, Sava Radigalia and Kane Farrell. Now, with backlines these days, you never really have a set, never really have a set position anymore. It's more the best what's available for matchups. You feel Asava and Alia will sort of chop and change, and the forward press motion that we play with our defence and with our back six, I feel like is definitely the mix is there for a lot of run, a lot of carry, but also it's just going to be easily assembled with good matchups and key positions. And whilst it does lack a little bit of a back pocket to really facilitate for those small, dangerous forwards, I feel like they're the best positions to give available from what I've heard and what I've seen across the preseason as well. So a lot to be accounted for. You can obviously throw in, Ryan Burton, Lockie Jones, and I'll get to those names a little bit later down the track. But right now, they're probably my best 6 going in for the back half, going to round 1. Across the centre line, my 3 there will be Jace Burgoyne, Ollie Wines will be in the centre, and Travis Boak on the other wing as well. Both wingmen performed great last year, I thought. I thought Burgoyne's role really developed nicely across the year, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him across the half-back line going forward as well. And him having a key component was a very good intercept mark in that final against Hawthorn. Same with Trav Boak. I feel like his running capacity really helps him here to help down in the back half. And whilst I think his defensive play probably needs a little bit of a work, and he needs to be a bit tighter on his man. We've seen that a couple of times with wingmen kicking goals against him last year. I feel like his forward craft and the way he moves the footy, and he got on the scoreboard a lot more in the second half of last year as well. Even though he missed goals early, he decided to hit a couple throughout the back half, and I think that made him a very elite runner, and we saw he was probably the best in that prelim as well against Sydney. So I think that matches well, and whether Trav plays every game this year will be something to watch out for, but I think he definitely starts the year and will start strong, and an experienced player you need, I think, out there, especially with the younger audience that is our midfield as well. So I think that's pretty strong. Ollie Wines is starting. I think that might chop and change between him and Willem Drew, but for now I think him starting in that centre half I think is really good, especially with Drew's injury throughout the preseason. I think they'll probably take a more of a risk-free approach when it comes to him. So Wines, Burgoyne and Boak across that centre line for me. In our ruck and the ruck rovers as well, I think it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I think everyone's will be pretty much the same. It's Jordan Sweet, Connor Rozee and Zach Butters, the two the captain and the vice captain. Jordan Sweet's obviously going to earn the number 1 ruck spot to start the year. Was a fantastic across the back half of last year, and in that run towards finals and in the finals as well. So I think he's an integral part and will be one that we'll see across the year to definitely definitely counter any sort of ruckman, and he might be again improving, which would be absolutely amazing to see. So I think the midfield mix is pretty straightforward and pretty conclusive, if you ask me. So if anyone thinks otherwise, let me know in the comments below. Across the half forward line, now we get into the forward half of the ground, and now this was a very interesting. It's very hard and very difficult to pinpoint the forward line. I think with such a mix that we have this year, with so many small forwards and so many half forwards that can play in the midfield and rotations, you got 10 names you could throw in there, and I think the way we're going to sort of structure our forward line this year and keep it quite open, I feel like it's going to be a lot of more of a defensive press up the ground, which will be very interesting indeed. And I think this mix at the moment is probably what you'll see. So starting at half forward line, Jason Horne-Francis rotating through the midfield. You'll see that mix quite regularly. Lukosius will be our centre half forward. I've heard he's had a great pre-season in terms of his movement up and around the ground and elite kicks. So I look forward to seeing that. And Darcy Byrne-Jones across that half forward line. He'll be that pressure forward, keeping it inside 50, and he can play as a deep forward as well, deep forward pocket. And we'll have rotations through the ground, and the players that will mix through there. Probably edges out Joe Richards too, I think. And I'll get to his name in a second. But for now, I think that's a pretty solid half-forward line. Across full forward will be Willie Rioli, Mitch Georgiadis, and Ollie Lord. Now, I think Rioli and Georgiadis speak for themselves. They're probably our two best forwards in terms of goal kickers and impact on the game. Ollie Lord, for me, is the difference between him and Finlayson. Now, rotating between him and Finlayson on whether or not they should play in this game, in round one, that will all dictate on form from these preseason matches coming up. With me, I'm feeling Ollie Lord's year is this year. I feel like he's the one that needs to take that step up. I really consider him similar to the likes of Shannon Neal at Geelong. Have a big year, have a breakout year. We saw him in the back half of 2023. It was all enormous. It never really got going last year because of an injury, but he's had a full preseason, a full opportunity now to prove a point. Between him and Finlayson, I really like Lord's replacement as for Charlie Dixon. I feel like he's a lot more mobile and can do the job quite well. And there's that second ruck option to go inside for Jordan Sweet as well, and we know Sweetie can play in the forward half too. I think with Finlayson, his versatility will work in his favour in terms of getting selected around throughout the year. But I think for now, you stick at it. Ollie Lord's the future. He's the one that I don't want to label him the future, because the last time we labelled someone the future ended up being short-lived. But I think he's the one that's the difference in terms of being a big key forward. And on the bench, the four players that will be standing out will be Sam Powell-Pepper, Willem, Drew, Lockie Jones. Speak for themselves, those three replacements in each line. SPP up forward, Drew in the midfield, and Lockie Jones down back. My fourth player is Joe Berry. He gets a debut round one. I think his preseason's been elite. I think you always like a debutant in round one because it brings the energy, brings everyone's moods up, and brings everyone into a position where it's all right. Let's see what the kid can do. And I know there's a couple of names you're already sitting there going, "Well, what about him? What about him?" I think with this mix, it's about right. You have your tall enough forwards, you have that ruck rotation, you have a player on the bench for each line, and then Joe Berry is your deep forward. He's the young kid, brings aggression, brings a lot of energy, and he's the point of difference, which means your substitute, and it's for us, I think Joe Richards will be the sub for Port. It leads to be Richards comes in. You've got enough small forwards in there, but Richards can be the one that go, all right, well, Joe Berry, all things considered, you had a great first game, let's put you on ice. Or, someone in particular, you can get injury early and you want your sub to be flexible. I think Joe Richards helps us with those small forwards. So say if a midfielder went down, you can have your predominant small forward rotation. Horne-Francis plays a little bit more time in the midfield. Drew's in there a little bit more. You can throw in someone else to run around in that midfield, and it works. So I think that's why I've chosen him as the sub, and then they're the 4 on the bench, which leads me to the emergencies, and it's Jeremy Finlayson, Ryan Burton, and Jackson Mead. 3 very unlucky players to miss out, and 3 I'd very much be not surprised at all if they're mentioned for a round 1 spot, because they've had great pre-seasons. Finlayson's versatile. Jackson Mead was in the side last year consistently, and I think because of the positional changes, he just unfortunately misses out. At the start of the year, I think he'll find his way back in, or it could even be the sub, or could even be finding himself on the bench for round 1. Ryan Burton's had a good pre-season as well, went over the States with Trav Boak, and I think we'll see him quite regularly, especially if Sava Radigalia cannot get up to play round 1. But all things considered, and the information I have been receiving and the knowledge of Asava's injury is the fact that he is likely to play round 1, depending on how he gets through training and building up his stamina and everything when it comes to recovering from his surgery. So we'll wait and see on that. But for now, they're the players that I see travelling over to the MCG for round 1 against the Pies. The unfortunates to miss out, and I think we'll see them a little bit this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if a few injuries hit throughout 2025. We see them: Will Lorenz, Rory Atkins, Jed McEntee, Dylan Williams, Jack Whitlock, Van Soldo, and Xavier Walsh. So the players to miss out, obviously Todd Marshall and Brandon Zerkdager are injured, and if they were fully fit, they'd be in the side. So a lot of players' names thrown up. I am very intrigued. This is one of the more unpredictable best 23s I think I've done since having the channel. I think there's a lot of players in here that deserve a spot. You can't fit them on paper. Injuries have occurred, so the dynamic of the system changes. The players and the roles and everything change, and it's just unpredictable. And especially with a Collingwood outfit that have been talked up, and so they're supposed to excel at their expectations this year. I strongly advocate that this Port Adelaide side will be unpredictable, therefore a lot more dangerous. So I'm keen to see what happens over the next few weeks for Port's round 1 side. But for now, enjoy the pre-season games. Enjoy seeing what's to come from the new players at Port Adelaide, and just enjoy the fact the footy is back as well. Well, there you have it, Port fans. That is my best 23 for 2025 for round 1. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on my team. Give me your team as well, and see, and we can compare and have a chat, a good honest chat, because honestly, whilst I have predicted this best 23 and thinking this would be the best possible side to take on Collingwood, as I said, the selections and everything all come into it, and I'm not 100% convinced on this side, but this is the best possible outcome I could come for, and I could throw, names on the whiteboard around and fit everyone in. So we'll wait and see, but make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new for plenty more Port Adelaide AFL content to come your way across season 2025. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Anthony, and as always, count the pair.